Good morning, dear students. A warm welcome to all of you for our today's digital revision session for the subject Science and Technology Section B. Today, we are going to revise chapter number 15, Life Processes in Living Organisms, which was a part of our first online assessment. So, let's begin with the first topic. Our first topic is transportation. What do you mean by transportation? The word itself tells you transport, means it is being transferred from one place to the another place. The process by which a substance either synthesized or absorbed in one part of the body reaches another part is called transportation. We had studied transportation in plants. We have seen how water is transported to each and every part of the plant. One is by root pressure and next is by transpiration pool. We have seen under transpiration pool how water is given out by the plants in the form of vapor through the stomata which are present on their leaves. Two cells called the guard cells are present around the stomata, and these cells control the opening and closing of stomata. So whatever water is lost during the process of evaporation, that water loss is compensated by the xylem, as xylem contributes in bringing the water up to the leaves. Next, we have seen how transportation of food and other substances takes place in plants. You all know that xylem enables water to be transported and phloem conducts the food. So the food which is produced in the leaves is transported to each and every cell in the plant body. We know that green plants, leaves of the plants, they prepare the food. Whenever food material like sucrose is transported towards a part of a plant via the phloem with the help of ATP, the water concentration it decreases in that particular part. As a result, what happens? Water it enters the cell by the process of diffusion. The pressure on the cell wall increases due to the increase in the cellular contents. Due to the increased pressure, the food is pushed into the neighboring cells. We had taken an example of local train when I had explained you the transportation of food, where the pressure is low. This process it helps the phloem to transport the materials as per the requirement, as per the need of the plant. Next, we had studied in details the very important process of excretion. What do you mean by excretion? Removal of waste or harmful substances from the body. We had seen the process of digestion, absorption, transportation, everything is very important. It is an important part of your body, but towards the end, if the waste, harmful substances are not excreted out, then it will lead to the accumulation of waste inside your body, inside the body of plants, animals, human beings, and it can prove very dangerous. So excretion is also an important life process. It means removal of waste or harmful substances from the body. We had studied excretion in plants and excretion in human beings. Let us move to the first part, how the waste products are excreted out of the plant body. In the case of plants, there is no special organ or system. We have our excretory system which we are going to study later on, but in the case of plants, there is no special organ. So how are the excretory waste products put out of the plant body? We are going to see different methods. Gaseous substances are given out by the process of diffusion. You well know what is diffusion. What do you mean by diffusion? Movement from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Most of the waste substances of the plants, they are stored in the vacuoles of leaf cells and flowers, fruits and the bark of the stem. You know, after a certain period of time, all these parts of the plant, they fall off, and along with these parts, the waste materials, they are also removed out. Some other waste materials are stored in the old and worn xylem in the form of resin and gum. Some waste materials are also given out through the roots. So these are the different methods by which plants excrete their wastes. In some plants, waste materials are present in the form of crystals of calcium oxalate. We had taken an example of arum or elephant's foot plant, that is suran. When your parents cut it, then sometimes you feel that pricky sensation. It is due to the presence of calcium oxalate crystals, which are called as raphides. They are needle shaped, hence they prickle and cause irritation to your skin. Some waste materials of the plants are very useful for human beings. For example, gum of the plants, resin, latex of rubber, etc. Now, very important, excretion in human beings. Human beings they have a well-defined excretory system which consists of a pair of kidneys. Even though one of the kidney does not perform well, a human being can survive for n number of years on one kidney also. But normal human excretory system, it consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters. You can see here, the urinary bladder, this is your bladder, and the urethra. Urine is formed by the kidneys. You can see kidney on the right and left half by separating the waste and unwanted excess substances from the blood. Now let us see how this function is performed by the kidneys. The functional unit of the kidney that performs the basic function of filtration, it is called as a nephron. The urea which is produced in the liver, it comes into the blood. When this urea containing blood, it comes into the glomerulus. All these terms we have already seen. It is filtered through these capillaries. I had told you, like a strainer, it filters, and urea and other similar substances are separated out from it. Water molecules and small molecules of such other substances, they cross the semi-permeable membrane of Bowman's capsule. The solution accumulated in the cavity of Bowman's capsule passes into the tubular part of the nephron. Here, molecules of water and some other useful substances are reabsorbed into the blood. Urine is formed from the remaining solution, and this urine is full of all the waste materials. This urine is carried by the ureters. You can see here, this urine which is formed is carried by the ureters and it is stored in the urinary bladder. Afterwards, the urine is given out from the urethra. You all know that urinary bladder is very muscular and it is under the control of nerves. Hence, we are able to keep a control on urination. Though the kidneys, they are the main organs of excretion in human beings, the skin and the lungs also help in the process of excretion. You know, especially when the climate is very warm, it is hot, you sweat a lot. That sweat is nothing but the excretory product. Who plays an important role over here? Skin or lungs. It helps in giving out the carbon dioxide out from your body. So in this way, skin and lungs also play an important role in the process of excretion. Next topic is coordination. Very, very important process. Coordination, we are going to study both how it takes place in plants and how it takes place in human beings. Before going ahead, we will see in short what do we mean by the term coordination. You know that several different organ systems, they function in all the multicellular organisms. Their life, it will work smoothly, it will go on smoothly if there is coordination between the different organ systems or organs and the stimuli in the surrounding. So how you can define coordination? Systematic regulation of different processes. Which are the different processes? Digestion, excretion, all these are the different processes. Even circulation. So systematic regulation of different life processes can be called control, and bringing about the different processes in the proper sequence can be called as coordination. What will happen if any activity in the body is to be completed successfully? Proper coordination between different systems and the organs participating at different steps of that activity is necessary. When I had taught you this chapter, we had taken a good example about coordination of a dance activity. how the coordination channel works, and if any of the channel does not work properly, your entire program becomes a mess. So similarly is regarding the coordination of your different life processes. If your body has to function well, then all the processes have to be coordinated in a very systematic manner. So let us see how coordination takes place in plants. Now, plants, they do not have systems like the nervous system or muscular system of animals. Then how do the plants bring about the movements? You know that coordination in plants, same like excretion. Plants do not have separate excretory organs. Similarly here, they do not have any system for coordination. Here, movement or growth of any part of the plant in response to an external stimulus is called as tropism or tropic movement. Now here different types of movement we are going to see. The shoot system of any plant, it responds to the light stimulus, that is, it grows towards the source of light. This movement which is shown by the plants towards the source of light is called phototropic movement. We have seen that any you can say seedling which is kept in the dark, slowly it will move towards the source of light, that is phototropic response. Or next response we can say is the root system of the plant. It responds to stimuli like gravitation and water. These responses are called as gravitropic, as it is related to gravitation and water, so hydrotropic movement. Movement which is shown by the plant in response to specific chemicals is called chemotropic movement. For example, the growth of the pollen tube. You can see this example, pollen tube growing towards the ovule. So that is known as chemotropic movement. All the above mentioned movements, all these movements, they are related with the growth of the plant, and hence all such movements are collectively called as growth relevant movement. Now we are going to see what do we mean by growth irrelevant movement. Here you can take an example of touch me not plant or mimosa leaves. If you touch them, what happens? Other parts of the leaves, the entire leaflet, it closes. It only does not close at the point where it has been touched. From this what we can infer? That the information about the touch must have been relayed within the plant from one place to another. So plants, they also use electrochemical impulses for the transfer of information from one place to another place. So such type of some specific movements here, when you touch the mimosa leaves, this movement is not led to the plant's growth, and such movements are called as growth irrelevant movements. Next, now we are going to study about the coordination in human beings. Now you know different life processes, they go on simultaneously in the human body. All this process, they need to be efficiently and effectively controlled and coordinated. Now regarding coordination in human beings, it is done with the help of two systems. One is the nervous control and the other is the chemical control. So let us see first about the nervous control. Now you know that human beings, they can respond to the changes in their surroundings. It is due to the nervous control. Control and coordination, when it is related to nervous control, it is brought about with the help of special type of cells which is called as neurons or nerve cell. This is a diagrammatic view of a neuron or nerve cell. Special types of cells which conduct impulses from one place to another in the body, they are called as neurons. Neurons are the structural and functional units of the nervous system. Nerve cells, the largest cells in the human, the body may measure up to a few meters in length. Nerve cells, they have the ability to generate and conduct electrochemical impulses. The cells that support the nerve cells and help in their functioning are called as neuroglia. They do not function only on their own. They are having the support, and they are the supportive cells are called as neuroglia. These nerve cells and the neuroglial cells together, they form the nerves, and you know how important role nerves play in our body. All the information about our surroundings is collected by the ends or the dendrites of the neuron. You can see here dendrites. The chemical process begins at those ends and electric impulses are generated which are conducted from the dendrites to the cell body, from the cell body to the axon. See, from the dendrites to the cell body. You can see this cell body. From the cell body to the axon. This is the axon. And from the axon to its terminal. Axon terminal, that is the ending part. These impulses are then to be transferred from this nerve cell to the next. Now the impulse that reaches the terminal, that is the end of an axon, it stimulates the nerve cell to secrete certain chemicals which pass through a minute space called the synapse between two adjacent neurons. Now you know neurons are located one besides the other. So the minute space between two adjacent neurons is called as synapse and generate the impulse in the dendrites of the next neuron. And thus the impulses are conducted in the body and finally conveyed by the nerve cells to the muscle cells or the glands. Now there are three types of neurons. They are classified according to their function, the function which they perform. First one, sensory neurons. Word itself tells you conduct impulses from the sensory organs to the brain and the spinal cord. Next, motor neurons conduct impulses from the brain or the spinal cord to the effector organs like muscles or glands. And third is association. Word tells you that association neurons perform the function of integration in the nervous system. Now we move towards the human nervous system. Human nervous system is divided into three parts: CNS or central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Now central nervous system, when you speak about, it consists of brain and the spinal cord. The brain of an adult human being, it weighs about 1300 to 1400 grams and consists of approximately 100 billion neurons. See, look at the number of neurons being present inside an human brain. The left side of our brain controls the right side of our body. Amazing. The left side of our brain controls the right side of our body, and right side of our brain, it controls the left side of the body. In addition, the left side of the brain controls our speech and conversation, writing, logical thinking, whereas the right side, it controls the artistic abilities. So depending upon which side of your brain is more developed, the more you are good in that part of the performance. Some are good at conversation, some are good in art. So depending upon which side of the brain is more developed. Next, now the human brain, you know, it consists of three parts. One is the cerebrum, the other is the cerebellum, and third is medulla oblongata. Cerebrum is the largest part of our brain and it consists of two cerebral hemispheres. You can see this cerebrum, it is known as the largest part of the brain. These hemispheres are joined with each other with the help of tough fibers or nerve tracts. The cerebrum, it occupies 2/3 of the brain. Means see how large it is, and hence it is also called the large brain. Its surface has deep irregular ridges and grooves which are called as convolutions. You can see convolution increases the surface area of the cerebrum and therefore a large number of nerve cells can be accommodated. A large number of surface area, so a large number of nerve cells can be accommodated. Next is cerebellum. This is the smaller part of the brain. You can see situated below the cerebrum. You can see this cerebellum right below the cerebrum at the back of the cranial cavity. You can see towards the back. Its surface show shallow grooves instead of deep convolutions. And third one is medulla oblongata. This is the hindmost part of the brain. There are two triangular swollen structures called the pyramids on the upper side of the medulla oblongata. And the medulla oblongata, it continues down as the spinal cord. So let us see what is spinal cord. It is a part of the central nervous system and is held within the vertebral column. You can see this dark red color structure is the spinal cord. It is slightly thick but gradually tapers towards the end. You can see its tapering end. There is a thread-like fibrous structure at its end. It is called the filum terminale. Very important part of the CNS, that is the spinal cord. Now let us take a look at the functions of the different parts of the brain. Cerebrum, control of voluntary movements, concentration, planning, decision making, memory, intelligence and intellectual activities. Cerebellum, coordination of voluntary movements and maintaining the body's balance. Medulla oblongata, control of involuntary activities like the beating of the heart, blood circulation, breathing, sneezing, coughing, salivation. And spinal cord, conduction of impulses from the skin towards the brain, conduction of impulses from brain to muscles and glands, functions as center of coordination of reflex action. So these are the different functions of different parts of the brain. Now we move on to the next part of the nervous system, that is peripheral nervous system. Now peripheral nervous system, it consists of the nerves originating from the central nervous system. These nerves connect the central nervous system with all the parts of the body. Very important. They are of two types, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Look at the word cranial. Cranial tells us nerves originating from the brain are called the cranial nerves. They are associated with various parts in the head, thorax and abdomen. There are total 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Spinal nerves, word itself tells you they are originating from the spinal cord and are called the spinal nerves. These are associated with arms, legs, skin and some other parts of the body. Total there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And now we move towards the last part of the nervous system, autonomic nervous system, auto. The autonomous nervous system, it consists of the nerves of the involuntary organs, the organs which are not under your control, like the heart, lungs, stomach, etc. Hence the word autonomic. Automatically it is controlled by your body. It is not under the control of our will. Next topic is reflex action. Reflex action, for that we had taken an example. If suddenly by mistake you touch a very hot vessel, immediately you withdraw your hand back. So an immediate and involuntary response given to a stimulus from the environment is called a reflex action. Sometimes we react to an incident without any thinking on our part or control over that particular reaction. Now here we didn't know that we had to withdraw our hand. You can say accidentally you have touched that hot object and you have taken your hand back. This is a response given to a certain stimulus from the surroundings, and in such situations proper control and coordination is achieved even without the participation, even without the intervention of the brain. Here it is a sudden response which you are giving. Your brain is not helping out in any action. Next control after our nervous control is the chemical control. Control and coordination in our body is also brought about with the help of certain chemical substances. Very important. They are called as hormones. Hormones are secreted by the endocrine glands. As soon as these hormones are produced, they are directly released into the blood circulation. Thus, though these endocrine glands, they are present at specific locations in our body, but their secretions reach all the parts of the body via the blood, because they are directly released into the blood. So endocrine glands along with the nervous system are responsible for the total control and coordination in our body. So these two systems, that is the function of the endocrine glands and the chemical control, means we can say chemical control and nervous system. They help each other to control and integrate the various activities of the body. But a difference between these two systems is that nerve impulses are very fast but short-lived, whereas the action of hormones is very slow but long-lasting. So it is very important that hormones are secreted only in the required quantity, and there is a special mechanism which controls the quantity and timing of the hormone secretion. We had seen an example of diabetic patient. Whenever there is an increase in the blood sugar level or blood glucose level, certain cells in the pancreas, they get stimulated, and as a response they release a greater quantity of insulin. And if that insulin is not secreted in proper proportion, then you have to inject or take in artificially to bring the increased blood glucose or blood sugar into control. Now our last part of the chapter is that we had seen the endocrine glands. We have studied about their glands, where they are located, what hormones they secrete, and what functions they perform. This entire chart is given in your textbook on page number 177. I will just read the important ones. Pituitary gland, situated at the base of the brain. There are different hormones which are secreted by the pituitary gland, and you can see its functions. Thyroid gland is located at the anterolateral sides of trachea in the neck region. Hormones secreted by the thyroid gland is thyroxine and calcitonin. Function is controls the growth of the body and metabolic activities, controls calcium metabolism and calcium level in the blood. Parathyroid gland, 4 glands behind the parathyroid glands. Parathormone is the hormone secreted, controls metabolism of calcium and phosphorus. Pancreas, very important. Adrenal gland secretes adrenaline and corticosteroid. Ovary, very important, on either side of uterus in woman, secretes estrogen and progesterone, these two hormones, and these are the functions which are performed by these two hormones. Testes for males in scrotum is the location. Testosterone is secreted and stimulates the growth of secondary sexual characters like bird, mustache, hoarse voice in man. Thymus is located in the thoracic cage near the heart, secretes thymosin and controls the cells which give rise to immunity. So these are the different glands, at least important ones like the ovary, testes, thyroid, pancreas. You should know the hormones and you should study their functions. So here we end with the revision for section B. All the chapters taken for your first online assessment, second online assessment are revised. Now you have to study each and every chapter, go through each and every diagram, study all the different functions related to different glands, different organs, and be prepared for your third online assessment. Thank you, dear children, and I wish a best of luck for your upcoming third online assessment exam. Thank you very much.